So I'm now going to hand over to you, Charlie, and you're going to be talking about what? I'll let you introduce yourself. You introduce yourself and let us know what you're going to be talking about.
Fantastic. Thank you, David. That is an amazing introduction, and I'll try and live up to some of that expectation. I will tell you what I'm going to talk about just as soon as I've shared my screen, which hopefully I've got permission to do. Yes, it looks like I have. Fantastic. So let me just get it so I can still see everybody, just to make sure that you're paying attention. Yeah, so good morning, everybody. I am going to be chatting to you about energizing your business through innovation, because I think that the more that we can continually innovate in our business, and also the more that we can energize ourselves and our team, the more life we can breed into our business and the more things we can achieve. So that's what I'm going to be talking about this morning. Thank you for asking me to speak at this MDRT thing again. It's great to see so many faces. I'm looking forward to seeing many of you in Boston in a month or so's time. So when I wrote my book, Entrepreneurial Happiness, I kind of thought about, well, what does entrepreneurial happiness mean to me? And it was really about, well, okay, we've got to have, to be truly happy, if we're running our own business, we've got to be making good money. So if we're not making good money, clearly we can't make the choices that we want to make. We've got to have our work-life balance organized well. We don't we only want to be working as much as we want to be working. But also when we are working, we really want to be enjoying it. And if we've hit that sweet spot of getting those three things, good money, great work-life balance, loving the work that we do, that to me is entrepreneurial happiness. And what I've done on the previous two talks that I've done on these MDRT is I've just taken one of the elements of the profitable business plan, which is the money element of entrepreneurial happiness, one element of the free life business model, which is all the time element. And so this morning I wanted to just take one piece from the Epic Business Blueprint. Epic Business Blueprint is really about how we can really enjoy our business. And that, to me, part of that is innovation. It's constant and never-ending improvement within our business. Because if we're not growing, we're dying, aren't we? And if we can see our business continuing to grow and continuing to improve, that makes us happier, it makes our team happier. And I wanted to start off this morning by talking you through what I've understood to be known as the business life cycle. So our businesses grow very much like people do, and they grow from birth through infancy to toddlers, teenagers, young adults, maturity, midlife evaluation. There's a few people that I would say that I'm definitely in that bit at the moment, probably term myself as a midlife cyclist, as many others here would be. Then there's aging and institutionalization, and obviously death. So, but what do each of these stages mean in our business? Well, of course, our business is initially born, and then once it's born, it moves quickly through to toddler status. Now, toddler status in our business, it means that it's all over the place. It's kind of, it doesn't really give you anything back. It's just some grief and the pride of ownership, and it's a race for survival, and it needs kind of 100% of your attention. It crashes around all over the place, but it kind of is your business. It's learning to walk. And then it hits teenage status as you move on. And this is where cash flow is less of a problem because the business is starting to fly higher and higher. And at this stage, you think you're a genius. As with most teenagers, you're brilliant at taking risks, some of which pay off, some of which don't. But you kind of continue to work through that business. And teenagers, they just have a habit of taking too much risk. And so sometimes that works amazingly well, sometimes less so. Then it moves through to the young adult status. And those who don't take too many risks and don't blow up the business in the teenage years progress through to sort of making healthy sales, stronger cash flow. That said, in the young adult stage, you'll find that the processes and systems tend to be the thing that hold you back. And to progress, the business owners need to make systems that are scalable and repeatable. It's also the stage where business owners are starting to step back from their roles a little bit and delegating more. Then the stage we all strive to achieve in business, or should strive to achieve in business, is the mature adult stage. And this is where you're in the prime of your life. At this stage, you have systems running the business smoothly. You have strong growth that continues, but in a very sustainable fashion. And the main characteristic of a mature adult business is that the business owner has now put a management team in place and so that they can spend as much or as little time in the business as they want. And this is what strategic coach, I suppose, would describe as a self-managing business. It's in this mature adult stage that your business is worth the most amount of money. This is it's the most saleable, and this is essentially what we should be aiming to achieve. But beyond adult stage, we then head into this midlife evaluation stage, where things start to break down. The company starts to lose its way a little bit as it continues to age. Systems become a little bit old, less less dynamic, more clunky, and that leads straight on into an aging business. That's where things really start to break down quicker and quicker. Problems in the business seem to be from external causes, but actually often they are internal, or they're sort of legacy problems just kind of gradually compounding up. And this is where your most talented people start to leave. Then we go into institutionalization, where really it's only kept afloat through sort of outside help, and then finally death. So if we think about Apple in this with this business lifestyle in mind, or life cycle in mind, then after Steve Jobs left, that it innovated a lot and it grew quickly. But then in 1985, Steve Jobs was booted out of Apple, and the company started to age. It came really close to collapse, and so was probably as far gone as institutionalization. But then back in 1997, Steve Jobs returned, and in order to save it, he started to simplify the range, eliminating many of the options that the customer had, and really kind of just getting rid of some of the complexity. He then massively ramped up the innovation of the company, leading to the introduction of the iMac, the iPod, iTunes, iPhone, and then the iPad. And it was through this innovation that actually Steve brought it back from institutionalization back to being a mature adult, because the way that you go backwards in the life cycle when you've gone past mature adult is through innovation. And so ironically, in the absence, since Jobs passed away, I would argue that Apple went into not institutionalization, maybe as far as midlife evaluation, and maybe even an aging company. And then probably until about 2020, and then since 2020, again, there's been more innovation, and they've got it back to being a mature adult company. And so what innovation is really one of the ways that we can get right the way back up or stay at being a mature adult business. And if we think about it in cycling, then that's what Dave Brailsford did for Team Sky. He brought in this term, marginal gains. It was about looking for all of the different ways that we can improve our business. So one of the ways that we do that in our business is we have what we call energy meetings. Now, these are meetings once a month. When we were a smaller business, it was the whole team. As we grew and grew, so beyond about probably 15 employees, we decided actually it was better that these energy meetings were more focused on specific teams. But I want to give you one, and so those meetings are about working on the business. It's about having a meeting where we're all as a team or part of the team working on a specific element of the business. And I want to give you one example of that. And this to me was the most powerful energy meeting we did every year. By the way, ENERGY stands for ENERGISE Never Ending Growth Initiative, in case anybody's interested. But one of the meetings that we would do every year, and I hold this meeting, I give it the credit of giving us significant growth year on year on year, was a meeting that we called the 10 by 10 by 10. And basically what we would do, I'm sure you've all got your own unique processes, as was kind of similar to most, in that we had the financial breakthrough call, then we had the exploration meeting, then we had the efficient financial plan, the planning meeting, the implementation meeting, then implementation, and then the progressive review program. So we had this very clear process. But what we did was, with how the 10 by 10 meeting works, is we have an 8-step process there. So it's about looking at how we can make a 10% improvement on each of those stages. And what we think is, our instinct is, if we make a 10% improvement on each of those stages, we get a 10% growth in the business. Now, we're all happy with 10% growth in the business, but actually, the compound effect of 10% increase on each of those levels will bring an 80% growth in your business, because of the compounding effect of the 10%. So basically it's a really simple meeting. You just take each of those steps and you work with your team on how can we improve it by 10%. So the financial breakthrough call would be, how can we increase the leads that go into that pot by 10%? How can we then convert 10% more that come to the exploration meeting? Or it could be how can we increase the fees by 10%, which was always really easy because you just put them up 10%. So that is an incredibly powerful meeting, and we make sure we do that meeting once a year because it is a brilliant way of identifying new ways. And look, you don't even need, it probably won't deliver 80% growth each year, but it will deliver phenomenal amounts of growth. And when you're innovating in your business, it's really important that you fail fast. Now, I'm sure some of you have read Black Box Thinking, brilliant book by one of my favorite authors, Matthew Syed. And in that book, he talks about Unilever's nozzle. Now, Unilever had they were making washing powders amongst other things, and they found that there was this nozzle that was costing them a fortune because it was a real sort of weak point in the process. And so what they did was they got all the engineers within Unilever to try and fix this nozzle, and they just couldn't do it. They couldn't engineer a better nozzle. So in a sort of act of desperation, they decided to ask the biologists in Unilever to try and help them. Now, the biologists had no understanding of the engineering at all, but what the biologists did understand was evolution. So what they did was they decided that they wanted to use evolution to try and fix this problem. So they took the nozzle and they created 100 variations on it. They tried every one of them. They picked the 5 that worked better, and then they created 100 variations based on those 5. And again, they repeated the exercise again. And so what they did was they actually managed to solve the nozzle problem without any understanding of why they'd solved it, just purely using evolution to fix the problem. And so this is one of the tools that we can use in our business. We can use innovation to fight, but it's so important that we fail fast. And marketing is a great example of this. One of the great things that you can do now when you're marketing on social media is you can trial several different techniques all at once, and you can work out which one's the best, and then you create some variations on that, work out which one's the best, variations on that. And Facebook is amazing for providing you with this really early feedback, because the one that has the most success with your ideal clients may not be the one that you actually liked. It may be the advert that you think, no, that's never going to work. But if it has the most success, that's the one that you want to use. So think about how you can fail fast when you are innovating in your business. And one of the best things that I did in my business, I've mentioned quite a lot of books when I've spoken at MDRT. Books have been incredibly powerful in me growing my business. And I read a lot of different books. One of the best things I ever did in my business was introduce what I call the learning library. In fact, I know Sarah introduced this to her business recently, and she sent me a message saying, "Oh my God, it's amazing." So I was thinking about how can I get my team to grow faster and better in a way that I see myself developing through the books I read. So we all know that they like being paid more money. So I just came back from a holiday and said, right, good news, guys. I'm going to pay you more money if you read books. We already pay you more money if you pass exams, but all of the sort of personal development books, I'm going to pay you more money if you read them. And literally a couple of my team went, could you just confirm that you've just said what I think you've just said? You're going to pay us to read books? Because they were so over the moon by this news. So basically, yeah, we have the learning library, all the books that I read that I think would be really helpful for the team to read, both from their own personal development point of view, but from our business point of view. And I'll just take one example, The Referral Engine by John Yance. It's a really powerful book. It talks about how we can generate referrals through the content that we create. It talks about how we need to be ready to receive referrals and creating thank you processes in the business. And it also talks about building community around your clients, and that will generate more referrals. And brilliant examples of that are, we do golf days, we do wine tastings, or it could be seminars and webinars. The clients seeing themselves as part of that community is really powerful. But imagine when one of your team reads that book and goes, right, okay, I think from my perspective in the business, we could implement these ideas in this way. It becomes incredibly powerful when your team are reading ideas like the Referral Engine. And it combines really well with another thing that we do in business, which is the working on the business. So what we do is we ask them once a month to down tools for an hour, and just think for that hour, they have to work on the business. They have to think about, it can be their role, it can be the business in general, it could be something entirely different. It's like the Google time, I suppose. What we ask them to do, though, is we ask them to combine this with the learning library. So if they've read one of those books and they want us to pay them more for it, they need to write up based on, and we never want more than 1 page of A4 because I'm a slow reader. So what we want them to do is we want them to spend that hour thinking about, right, okay, having read that book, what could we do in our business with that information? If they haven't read a book that month, then it can be anything else. But it's incredibly powerful getting them to think about how we can improve the business. The ideas that you get back will be ideas that you probably wouldn't have thought of, but it's also breeding that entrepreneur mindset, which is really powerful in business. If you want some suggestions of good books to use for that, if you go to charlieredding.com/books, there is a list of what I think are my top business books. But one book that works really, really well for both them to read, but also the energy meetings, because what I quite often do is I'll build energy meetings around books. So I've got a series of 12 that we do regularly anyway, like the 10 by 10 by 10. But when I read a book that I think would be powerful for the team, I build an energy meeting around it. And Influence is a fantastic book for doing that, because there's 6 principles within influence. And every time I read that book, and I've read it a number of times, you're going through something else in your business life and you go, right, okay, now I can apply, how can I apply reciprocity to that? Or how can I apply authority to that? And so taking your team through the influence process and going, well, okay, how can we do that in our different parts of the business? Just changes their mindset completely. So it's incredibly powerful to do that. So one of the things that I've kind of covered the summary of entrepreneurial happiness and what I wanted to achieve by doing that book. But I just wanted to tell you about a couple of new projects that we're about to launch that I'm really, really excited about. So the first is we're about to launch a new business called the Trusted Team. If you've read Entrepreneurial Happiness already, you'll know I referenced the term the Trusted Team, because it's about the partnerships that we can build with other professionals in practice and kind of helping our clients more, but also helping other people finding your ideal clients for you. So we're going to be launching this in September. It's going to be a series of workshops, so workshops every 2 months. A wide range of external speakers plus my coaching will make up each of those workshops. So it's about innovation and improving your business practice, but it's also about helping you build your strategic network, because we're targeting specifically accountants, solicitors, and financial planners. So not only do you sit in an environment where you can learn about how to improve your business, you can also meet people that can introduce you to your ideal clients. But one of the things that I said about in Entrepreneurial Happiness is I think some of the fun has been drained out of work, particularly over the last couple of years, whether it's the regulator banning golf days or whether it's the plague. It's just, the fun has kind of drained out of business. So we want to introduce golf days, spa days, weekends away, hopefully skiing, some cycling, because we know that if you spend time with, let's say, an accountant and a solicitor over a coffee, you build a bit of a relationship. If you spend a weekend skiing with them, you'll build a much, much stronger relationship. And that's much more likely to end up with you guys working together and sharing business. So we're going to be launching that in September, which I'm really excited about. We're also going to be launching a business that I don't really want to describe as a power planning business. It's like a power planning business on steroids. It will help you with power planning, but it will also help you optimize your business. So we'll do front stage and backstage audits, marketing audits to really help you improve that business. So that's another business that we're going to be launching in September, which I'm really excited about. If you want to hear about either of those, I am going to be doing a free webinar in 2 weeks yesterday, so 25th of May, 9 o'clock. If you would like to register that, it's called the Better Practice Makes Progress webinar. And basically what we'll be doing is talking about some other ways that you can innovate in your business, some ways that you can delegate better, how to build stronger partnerships, but also merging business with fun. So I'll put that link in the chat. I hope this morning I've given you a couple of ideas of how you can innovate better in your business. If you'd like to attend that webinar, we'd love to have you there. And in fact, if you register for the webinar, if you haven't already got a copy of Entrepreneurial Happiness, I'll send you a copy of that for free. If you just email me that you've registered, and I'll send you a copy of the book for free.